All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case. I am not actually late. A wizard is never late. Also, I have to set everything up on 3 different streams before I go live, so it can be a little bit daunting here. Luddite mode. Luddites represent. I think there might be a processing issue right now on Rumble, so give me a minute while I make sure that that's actually working. It's giving me an error there, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there's actually a problem. Let me refresh this. Come on. You know you want to play. Okay, yeah, I'm live on Rumble. Just a sec here. So yes, it's time for the Saturday show. No worries. Slow mode is tyranny, says Internet God. Yeah, but if I didn't have slow mode on, number one, there'd be a bunch of people spamming and I refuse to use moderators. And number two, it would be going too fast, even absent the spam, for me to actually get to the super chats. Most of them would just disappear, so I have no other choice. I don't know, for the midterm live stream, when I'm expecting there might be 12,000, 15,000 people watching live, I may actually have to use moderators. And I'll get some other creators in on that or something, maybe. Then they can ban a bunch of people and sabotage the stream. How funky. Anyway, we've got a news wrap-up mainly today. We'll be talking about the memory holding of the attempted assassination of SCOTUS Justice Kavanaugh. It's important. Bill Maher weighing in on that, actually. Fox is reporting on it. Links in the description, by the way, archived, of course. We'll be talking about the Liz Cheney worship cult. Because that is something that is of political import. It's shenanigans by people like at MSNBC, like the Joy Reids of the world. Also, Mexico boycotting Biden's summit of the Americas at the moment, which is hilarious. They're standing in solidarity with the Venezuelans and Nicaraguans and so forth. I've got a lot to say about this because it's one of these things is not like the other. The past administration didn't seem to have this particular problem. But first, we're actually going to go into something else. Well, first we got our first super chat. Verdian G, it's $20, not 20,000. Lul. Yeah, so just keep doing your thing. Do you like BTS? BTS, I think, can stand for multiple things, so I'm not 100% sure, actually. Maybe. Go over on Rumble as well. Yeah, people are piling in cross-platform. We're already at almost 2 Biden loser units, so share out the link and we'll see what we can do. We'll be going through something special, though, first. I was going to do a live stream just of this, and with more prep, I think that I'd like to do so. But I'd like to respond to some very funny comments, actually. These are all from one video just on BitChute. To give you an idea, if you're watching on YouTube, Twitch, wherever, to give you an idea of how edgy things can be there, because they're basically like YouTube pre-2012 or thereabouts. And by the way, a little bit of a disclaimer first. I am not angry at your criticism. There's a reason why you're not muted or blocked on the channel. It's not sour grapes. I believe in your right to free speech, even if what you happen to say is completely wrong much of the time to the people that don't like me for my political or religious views, etc. Basically, BitChute's commentary is sort of like YouTube used to be. I find it refreshing because I originate in the late 2000s era of the internet. So I'm used to pre-timeline Facebook. I'm used to really old school 4chan as opposed to, kind of semi-sanitized 4chan with a bunch of containment boards. I'm used to YouTube comment sections effectively being nothing but trolling. So it's no problem to me, but it is hilarious. So I'll be reading through 4 special comments by 4 special users on BitChute. And you should join me on that platform. Of course, link in the description. You should definitely subscribe there because remember, I make exclusive content every day that does not go on YouTube. If you're watching this right now on YouTube, and you're not following me on some combination of BitChute, Odyssey, Rumble, or Minds, you're not getting all of the videos that I actually make. Used to be Dailymotion was on that list. Then they unwisely decided to block people from using the site at all unless they turn their ad blocker off. And I'm like, yeah, no thanks. Not going to happen. By the way, you may hear some baby noises in the background. The baby is having a fussy day. She is upstairs with her mother at the moment, trying to nap and failing miserably. So it's been a little bit difficult. Just a second here. Zim the Despot. Thoughts on disbanding the FBI and having the U.S. Marshal Service taking their place? Good idea. The FBI was never meant to be permanent anyway. The Tommy gun era is over. There's no use for the FBI anymore. As we've seen, they've just become another bureaucracy. Soldierog 5. Have you ever heard of the music group Tool? Yes, I have. Their song Anemia is about LA falling in the ocean. Pretty sure you'd laugh at the lyrics. I think a lot of people would prefer San Francisco be the one to fall into the ocean. When the next big one comes, we might get our wish. Meximan and Cheese. Anyone seeing the 1 to 6 messaging working? I only see the same people who have been yelling for 5 years getting a little louder to fewer people. I don't know what 1-6 messaging is. You'd have to elaborate on that. I don't know what you mean. And then Astral, you've got a bunch of, I think, Japanese characters there. I obviously can't pronounce them. Love you, Sticks. Thanks for all the content. Also, your song Modern Android is fire. Need new Sticks music in the future. I would love to make new music. Yeah, you can hear her in the background. She's already eaten. She's been changed. She's been snuggled for literally hours. Some days are like that when you're a parent. Steady Eddie 1983. A recent poll says half of male Democrats under 50 support political assassinations. Strange how this has been completely ignored. Yeah, they're violent people. Joshua San Filippo, Trump Paul 2024, Paul DeSantis 2028, DeSantis ? 2036. Yes, I agree with that totally. I think Trump should be the nominee this next time around. Rand Paul should be his running mate. Give him that executive experience. Use him as the tool he is effectively. I don't mean that in the pejorative sense. He's very, very good at the kind of banter that you would need as a vice president. He would rankle all of the right people. Give him that executive experience, and he won't be beat when he runs. Then Trump, he gets a bonus. Not only does he get the second term, he's also dynastic because Paul will win a second term, almost certainly. And then Paul can take DeSantis aboard, give him that particular experience. He's got the gubernatorial thing, which is good. Right now, you need him, I think, more in Florida. But by then, you'll be able to get him into the prime time, into executive politics at the federal level. Opinionated Junkie. I just watched a Democrat YouTube video. The person said Trump didn't accomplish much of anything. Biden's failure or success is never mentioned. Yeah, Trump didn't accomplish anything other than tax reform, retrofitting hundreds of miles of the border, being the first U.S. president to step into North Korea and getting a bunch of landmines, border posts, etc. removed there, the repatriation of human remains. He didn't accomplish anything at all. The destruction of ISIS, that never happened. I realized the U.S. didn't take the fall, and that was the whole goal. Have other people do it for the U.S., and it's cheaper. And it worked. Biden has, of course, backpedaled on this. Bison American Club, learn more Dutch, you American. I do know some Dutch, but I'm not really confident in speaking it like here. I wouldn't start speaking Dutch. I'm pretty good at reading it because I always go to the store and, I see everything labeled in Dutch. I'm pretty good at understanding it if it's slowed down. Like if someone talks to me like I'm a slow adult, I can understand quite a bit of Dutch. If they talk in the normal pace that Dutch people tend to speak in, which is faster, I think, than the average American speaker, certainly. It's very difficult, so it'll take a lot of time. I've been practicing, don't worry. Opinionated Junkie, left-wing term, hard corporate populist fascist. Corporate populist fascist. Interesting. Fire down below. What are your thoughts on the upcoming gubernatorial race for New York? I'm hoping for Andrew Giuliani for the Republican nominee. I think the Democrats will hold the gubernatorial slot there without too much trouble. I don't think the paradigm shifted that much, dude. 87 Sparky. I'm glad I catch you live. I took your advice and go buy some heirloom seed, and now my garden is doing amazing. Thanks, Sticks. Excellent. Grow many more crops. Viridian G. BTS is a K-pop band. I'm in South Korea. I know absolutely nothing about any K-pop band. I'm not a fan. Or of J-pop or anything similar. Baron Von Blair voted for Tarl Warwick for school superintendent in Corona, California. Lol, clank. Yeah, people should write in Tarl Warwick for any slot in which there's no clear-cut good candidate or there's, an incumbent running unopposed. Just write me in, and it'd be funny to see the name pop up in a bunch of paperwork that has to be archived, by the way, in town offices all across the US and potentially the world, just because the name is there. Can you imagine, like, archaeologists 1,000 years later, they stumble on the ruins of what used to be civilization. They keep seeing this one person mentioned over and over. They don't have any clue who it is. Imagine the trolling from beyond the grave. Garrett Thomas, hello from Maine. Do you need any help? Okay. Hello from Maine. Should we even be blaming Biden for issues we are facing, considering he's a demented puppet being used as a scapegoat? He was not demented when he chose to run. So yes, some of the blame is his. Feel sorry for the dude. Alzheimer's is terrible. Feel sorry for his family for that as well. But he is responsible for his choice to run for the asterisk administration. Josh Eternal, America was safer before the 20s when we didn't have pig departments. It's our dependence on the police that's causing crime, not the lack of pigs. Ah, interesting. I don't know that everyone was safer in the 1920s and before. Depended on where you were, I believe. I'm a song. I learned a bit of German, and even Dutch leaves me confounded. I think it's the spelling. It's like the Scots of the Germanic languages. It's not that hard, but the problem is I can process things really quickly because I do literature all the time anyway. If I'm reading or I'm trying to write in something, I can go fairly quickly. But I'm messed up when it comes to input in the more verbal sense. If I'm listening to a Dutch person speak, I'll make out every 10th word. If I'm reading it, I can read it fairly fluently. I can go through the labels on things like, you know, any product basically, and I can kind of understand what's being gotten at. The baby is absolutely screaming at the moment. I'm assuming this is hunger. I'm not sure. Transylvanian 90, how long would it take for the economy to rebound once the wreckers like Biden and his Democrat House majority are out? If it takes long, people might even sour on the Republicans and Trump replacing him. It could be a problem. Certainly post midterms, I can't imagine the economy immediately healing. It'll take time, many months. Drennan, listening to you as I do some gardening. Clank on. I hope that you are growing plenty of horseradish. Do it. Avera Gamer, just picked up a second job. Also, do you think the US and the world is going to go into total collapse, or should we be okay by the mid to late 2020s? I don't believe in an entire collapse, but I think that things will get worse, unfortunately, at least over the coming months. Minimum 4 or 5 months. That's minimum. Majority likelihood, several years. I think we'll be in a recession, possibly even a depression for some time. Anyway, we'll get past the super chats for a moment. I'll check, see if there are any on Rumble. No, not yet. Yeah. No. Revolutionary Nationalist Media on Rumble. I'll put you in with the critics thing. I'll start off with you. So, you know, congratulations. You are a race traitor and a stain upon our race and a white genocide advocate. You should be ashamed of yourself for living in our ancestral heartland while promoting civic nationalism, i.e. globalism. Well, I'm not a globalist. Civic nationalism is just that. It's anti-globalist in form. Nice comment, though. So, yeah, you get the first dibs here. But I do have other people to get to. We've got to have some laughs here. White Wolf 316. Now, keep in mind, these are all on BitChute, and they're all under just the one video that I made about fuck black pillars. So what I'm telling people is to self-improve, live their life, stop worrying so much about collapse and stuff. Try to improve yourself. If there's a collapse, you'll have to deal with it, right? Well, then improve yourself, learn a new skill, become more self-sufficient, etc. If there is no collapse, it makes you more saleable. It means that you can get ahead more in life. Drive your ambition forth. I think that self-improvement's a good thing. I think the average person would agree. Attempting to get a bit more fit, eat a bit more healthy, learning a new skill, maybe you learn a language, maybe you learn an instrument or something. Regardless of what you're doing, it's something productive, it's something positive. It's good for the world and it's good for you. So I think that it should be focused on. Don't be black-pilled all day. You shut down and you just sit there moping and complaining online, and we'll get to that as well. It doesn't help anyone. It just fucks you in the ass. So White Wolf 316, I can't read the first word because we're on both YouTube and Twitch. Scrawny devil-worshipping tranny. Apparently this is the new meme about me. So I've seen scrawny or like stick figure noodle arms and stuff mentioned more often recently. I'm wondering why, because it's like, shit, you're using pictures of me from like 10 years ago when I was genuinely super skinny. You know, I've got a little bit more cushion for the pushing now. I wish I was still that thin. So the devil worshipping tranny part I'm used to. The Goyim No 1976. That's when you know it's sort of like the meme of Ulfric Stormhammer 1488. He's going to give us his advice into sociopolitics. Here's his thoughts on me. Dude lives in the Netherlands, sits in front of his camera a few minutes a day, flapping his yap about things he does not understand, collects his superchats or whatever, and uses his kid and cat to get aw money, telling us that the bad shit happening should be backburnered and instead we should go lift weights, plant trees, and maybe cook a pot of Madagascar stew. I'll get to the first part first. Yes, absolutely, you should lift weights, plant trees, and cook the Madagascar stew. Making a black-pilled comment online. Which one is more productive? Making the yummy stew or making the fucking comment, dude? Planting a tree or rambling about deforestation, like the environmentalist hippie nimbiest do? Which one is better? You've lifted weights or you sat on your couch on your fucking retarded computer making comments like the one that you just made? Which one's more productive for you, for your society, for whatever in-group you happen to have? I wonder which one. As far as using my kid to get aw money, you've never even seen my child. I've mentioned my child a couple of times, including in the context of this live stream, because she won't stop screaming in the background, although I think she's quiet now because she's finally got her bottle. I have no intention of converting into a family channel. And the cats do what they want. I can't keep the cat off the table. There have been times that she's come up here. She's gotten into the habit of sitting in front of the screen, because I made the mistake of playing one of those cat videos on YouTube with the flies buzzing around, and she thought it was great. Now she won't leave it alone. She comes up here 20, 30 times a fucking day. I'm watching a movie, she wants to watch it, and she'll paw at the screen. I'm typing. She wants to type too. She wants to sit on the keyboard. That's not my fault, dude. The cats have been doing that for literally years, even long before I was in the Netherlands. You can go back through my video catalog if you don't believe me. And here's his follow-up. It's simple logic and common sense. I disagree with you, but we'll get into what you say. What do you have to say here? What intelligence from the Goyim No 1976? Plant all the fucking trees you want. Go bench press Stacey Abrams if you can. You'll have to be really swole to do that, by the way. What's coming is still coming, and the skinny little 666 guy who looks like the love child of Jesus, John Lennon, and olive oil won't suffer a second, but he will profit from your problems while his OnlyFans-brained retards give him applause and money. It's funny because I've seen you on the channel before, so are you lumping yourself into that group? You're obviously subscribed. Are you just one of those hate posters that lurks because, again, you're not doing anything productive with your time? The only thing that you have to do is spurg out about me. Interesting, very productive individual. You're a glowing pariah, a glowing paragon, rather, of promoting whatever your ideology is. You're doing a great job. I'm sure you'll run for office and win someday. We are fucked. Accept it. Now learn to live through it. No, I disagree. You don't have to be fucked. You can help to improve yourself. That's always good. It doesn't matter the context. Times are good, times are bad. You should still do that. Don't become apathetic. And you improve your community, potentially, working with other people. You build a better community. Why do you think the educational system sucks? Parents use it as a daycare system. They drop their kid off. They don't go to the school board meetings. They don't care what their kids are being taught. That's the whole fucking point, dude. Don't be black-pilled about it and say, everything's terrible. There's nothing we can do about it. Well, if you had been doing things, it wouldn't be so terrible now, would it? Like the metaphor that I used in the same video. The authoritarian looks at the machine and the individual components, and they judge the components as corrupted because the machine's corrupted. What I do is I argue the opposite. The individual components of the machine are too weak. You need more individualism. You need people to self-improve. You need Volkish movements. Get together with your communities, whatever that community is, your family and so forth. Build those ties, build your skills, and wean yourself off the necessity of having the repairman repair the machine because the machine doesn't break down so easily. Because the components are stronger and better, therefore the machine comprised of them is stronger and better. It's goddamn simplistic. It doesn't require any deep thought to understand this concept. Salvatore Leone. Hey, you protein-deficient twig boy. America is $30 trillion in debt. get to the debt in a moment. I am not interested in helping prop up this corrupt, morally bankrupt society at all. The collapse is inevitable. I'm not black-pilled. I can see the writing on the wall. Well, you are black-pilled. Did you ever study where that debt is held? Most of it's domestic, my dude. It's not owed to China, China being the second largest creditor anyway. Japan's the biggest creditor, not exactly a hostile nation to Western interests. Okay, we owe money to China. Now study their debt and see what's actually going on. It's capable of being managed. It's just that we need more civic awareness to get a populist administration in there to actually pay it down, to actually do what needs to be done. Not going to get that under Biden. I have a feeling that some people, I'm not saying this about any of these individuals because I have no reason to believe so. Some of the individuals that are doing the black pilling thing, though, they are shills. They're trying to demoralize you to keep you from participating in civics. They want you reliant on government. No, don't go vote. It's useless. Voting won't help. The vote will be rigged. Don't knock on doors or anything like that. You're just wasting your time. Don't improve yourself. No, just parasitize the system because it's going to collapse anyway. Just be weak and lazy because this is nationalistic pride to be weak and lazy. Notice that there's an overlap there. And then we have amphibian cognito. Sticks, hammer, up ass, dicks. I've seen probably 100 different permutations of my username that are in this same comedic vein over time. And they keep getting more weird and less coherent over time. I think that there's some mental breakdowns going on. By the way, an image, the famous screenshot of me supposedly in drag. It's actually me in full gothic makeup. I got wasted and my girlfriend at the time did my full makeup and I had a great time and thought it was great. By the way, that video is still up on YouTube. I think it was, can't remember the exact title. It was the one about I think the BBC encouraging people to vote for Hillary Clinton and me saying basically, fuck that shit. That was in the 2016 election. So it was years ago. I wish I was still that skinny. Anyway, so there's a response to some of my critics, all of which are lol cows. Again, none of you have bothered me. You just gave me fodder. And a bunch of people donated money to me because they thought it was funny because I was reading out your shitty criticism. Interesting. You are the agents of your own misfortune. And I love it, by the way. This seems to be a common theme with people that don't like me. They tend to self-destruct and do stupid shit. They fuck themselves in the ass. They're not getting fucked any other way, so. Let's see. We did that comment. We did that comment too. I'm trying to get through them. Now I've got to go all the way to the bottom. Jesus Christ. I'm taking the Lord's name in vain. Transylvanian 90. I know you're into metal and a fellow Marduk enjoyer, so I'd like to recommend two bands you might like. Wormwood, especially their first album, and Seor, which is superb atmospheric black metal. I like atmospheric black metal. It's pretty good. Get some Buck Wallanuxiwe there and get it really, really underground. Ben 14P, what do you think about the Stellus Daimonem and John Michael Greer? I've heard of Greer before. I have not heard of the former. I'm assuming that that's a book. Or maybe an album. You never know these days. Sebastian Monroe, just stream on Monday and Tuesday and we'll have a week of stick streams. Also, check your analytics. Maybe we can make this an annual tradition. I am doing more streaming, but the reason why is as we get closer to midterms, we're getting more and more news stories, more and more poll analysis, more and more shenanigans from the Democratic Party. So there's more stuff to cover, and I don't have enough time in order to cover it all in one-off videos. So I just wrap it up in live streams. I'll probably be doing 3 or 4 streams a week for the foreseeable future if I have time. Titan Ravenscar, thoughts on deglobalization, demographic collapse. Deglobalization must happen. Global trade can be maintained without globalism. It's not necessary for any particular function of society. You'll still have your avocado toast. Don't worry, leftoids. It's just that you won't be exploiting all the people picking the avocados through some slave labor and a slush fund in China. You'll have to pay 10 cents more per piece of toast. I'm sure that it'll break the bank considering its current cost. As far as demographic collapse, yeah, in some parts of the world it is happening. It's a big problem. There are certain countries that are way below replacement rate, and the answer that's been given by the powers that be is, hey, let's bring in people from outside of the country. Denmark has the right idea. They've decided to pay people to have babies in order to solve the demographic issue. It's a long run, it's cheaper, because the assimilation process for outsiders costs more than simply having people make more babies in your country. Seors, almost missed it. I was planting sunchokes. I don't know what a sunchoke is. An artichoke or a type of sunflower? Or is it some sort of gothic apparel? Merrick Grimaldus, heretics blaspheme against the clank. Yeah, no, they're not heretics. They're just hilarious. Gordon, Black Metal recommendation. Check out Phaedra and Black Braid. That's what's up. Check him out. Yeah, Nate Medson is actually on YouTube just now in chat. Is also he's joining the Critics Cringe Circle. Styx bravely ran away. I have seen people claim that I fled to the Netherlands because of socio-political problems or COVID. I would point out that I came to the Netherlands months before COVID was announced as a pandemic, and it was before the initial reporting in like December and January of there even being an outbreak of some potentially new disease. So it doesn't have anything to do with that. At the time, the economy was fine. Things were going great in the United States. It was still in the roaring 20s, the little Indian summer of the Trump administration. I didn't run away. I'm married to a person who's Dutch, so I happen to be here at the moment. Don't worry, I'll be back to trouble everyone in the United States soon enough. Astral Walker, Anime Expo did away with their proof of vax requirement, and they faced massive online backlash till it was reversed. Didn't realize anime fans were still terrified of the coof. Lol. Yeah, I guess when you're a furry or something like that, you're used to masking. So, Zedekai, they'd still grouse even if you were in the U.S. Of course they would. Then they'd say, "Oh, Styx abandoned the Dutch people. Obviously, he hates them." He hates these spice trader swamp Germans. They would, and they will, I'm sure. Huns with guns. Incels and black pillars seem to really get triggered when you mention lifting weights or showering. What does that say about them? Yes, I've noticed that too. That's a good thing. Good point. I've made multiple videos that are white pilled. So I'm telling people, look, don't get all demoralized and fucked up and just, tune it everything out. Try to improve yourself. Sure, you may not change the world, but you can change your own life. You can make things better. You can marginally improve your condition. You have the time. You have the skills. You're not completely stupid, right? You've got some skills to capitalize upon. Go with it. You strum a guitar. Well, learn a new chord or something like that. Yeah, you're pretty good with languages. You're conversational in a third language. They'll become fluent in that third language. I don't understand why this makes some people so angry. They act like I'm telling them to put arsenic in their milk and chug it or something like that. How dare Styx tell me to self-improve? How dare Styx say that the food prices are rising? I happen to have a lawn, so I should plant a garden and pay half as much for the food. That would take effort. I'm lazy. I'm apathetic. I want the system to collapse. I can't improve myself. What a goofball. Joshua San Filippo, I grew up in the suburbs, rented rural a couple years, family friend's house near college, and now live in the suburbs again. I visited urban, and gosh, why would anyone in their right mind choose to live in cities? Yeah, other than some people have to because of their job. Yeah, they get a lucrative job, working in a factory or a skyscraper or something, and they're like, well, I don't want to commute for 2 hours through all this traffic, and I don't have enough money to have my own helicopter, so I have no choice. I can understand that. If you're capable of doing it so, you should definitely live at least in the suburbs and probably further out. Like in Rutland, it's marginal suburban, basically. Rini G, just because, sent $20. Thank you very much. Joshua San Filippo, renting currently, but once I can afford to buy, it'll be rural or secluded suburbs. Yeah, secluded suburbs are the best, as long as there's no housing authority. It's sort of the best of both worlds situation. Problem is, if development happens, pretty soon it's core suburbs, and if the area becomes seedy and starts to recede, eventually it's a rural zone. So, Based for Life Radio. Hey Styx, thanks for all you do. I got a nice garden going this year. Can you shout out my libertarian grunge punk rock music channel, Based for Life Radio? Just dropped a new song, Divide. Thank you. Consider that a shout out. Based for Life Radio. You can look them up. Laughing Dog. Mr. Putin is giving them a real life Ghosts of Ukraine by firing squad, and no one is thanking him. How rude. Yeah, the fight continues. Probably continue for 1,000 years. Lev Polyakov, can't wait for the Styx gun control debate on BreakTheRules.tv versus Jack Kosciarella this Tuesday, 8 a.m. Eastern. Yes, mark your calendars. Jack's podcast is backed by Midas Touch, a Democratic PAC, so should be interesting. Yes, I am definitely debating Kosciarella, who is backed by the Midas Touch people. You might know them from such gems as constant Trump derangement syndrome. He's a severe anti-gunner. He's also a glowing fan of Joe Biden, thinks of these great, basically refers to him as heroic. It's going to be an interesting debate. I don't think we'll see quite eye to eye on certain issues. Just saying. Zach Ungar, you mentioned that the Free State Project in Vermont would have been an easier task given its lower population. Do you think potential to do that still exists while simultaneously doing the same in New Hampshire? Yeah, considering the population's about half, it would take half as much effort to overrun, especially in some of those rural communities. You get 12 people to move in, and all of a sudden somebody gets voted in as mayor. Yes, the Free State Project, I think, if it begins to take off more, and there's a foreshock of that happening now with the Mises people anyway taking over the LP at large, all you would need is a few tens of thousands of people. You could overrun half of Vermont. That's all you would need for a lot of these communities. You could hold several counties. Then you'd have more self-governance. Maybe split it up. Send the ANCAPs to New Hampshire and send the classical liberal-style libertarians to Vermont. Just overrun both states and have a two-state solution. One that would actually work, by the way. Tron Javolta. Styx, you are the man. Have you heard of Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats? I think you would like their music. Heard of them? Haven't heard the music. Prof. Plaguebat. Black pillars are just a bucket of crabs. Yeah, but crabs are actually tasty. They've got a usefulness. Opinionated Junkie. Dems losing support. Dems go more left. Yeah, they don't seem to have any recognition of why they're losing support because they keep doubling down and tripling down on it. NPC. When will you go back on the JLP show? The conversation you had with him before was pretty good, and I think he would be interested in your life update. Yeah, I actually, he had contacted me not that long ago to get on there, but we couldn't work out the time zones because the time that he broadcasts is like, I think 3 a.m. local. I've got a kid now. I'll have to wait till I'm back in the U.S. It's the same with Timcast. Schedule-wise, I just can't do certain appearances right now unless someone's willing to be very flexible with my schedule. Sparky planted Florida Everglades tomatoes this year. Although they're small, they're disease and pest resistant and grow wild. They're early and ripen quickly. Sounds delicious. Make some salsa. Batman, Styx, go fluff yourself. Private Press of Flint, longtime viewer, poor as fuck, but wanted to support you. Well, thank you very much. It will still buy diapers and or energy drinks, both of which are important when you have a child. Arnett23me, hey Styx, have you thought about living in New Hampshire when you come back to the States since libertarians are making an effort to make it more libertarian? Yeah, I've considered moving to New Hampshire, specifically the southwestern part of it. It's familiar to me. I've been there a million times. I was born technically in New Hampshire, not Vermont. Yeah, I've definitely thought of moving there. Fiery but mostly peaceful. You'll barely hear about inflation on the MSM. Thank goodness we have billboards at gas stations instead. Brooks Ogborn, thanks for your optimism, Styx. I listen to Tim, Crowder, etc. in waves, but I've listened to every day for years. You have funny but accurate analysis, and you don't take any shit. I love it. The only shit I will take is for Andy 6. Merrick Grimaldus, I've been told by car dealers of microchip shortage. Would you know anything in depth? No, because I'm not into automotive stuff. No, but I haven't heard anything of that. If they don't have microchips for tracking cars and shit like that, I fail to see the problem. Just build them old school without the microchips in them. I can remember when cars weren't basically a computer. Those were fun times. Clumsy Vash, here's some aw money. Lol, you rock. Clank. Anyway, we'll get to the news analysis since we're 35 minutes in here. First and foremost, we'll talk about Brett Kavanaugh. Of course, you'll remember a few days ago, and leftoid from California tried to kill him because he was angry over the Roe v. Wade leak and potentially, and again, this is maybe lost in translation. Supposedly, there was an element of him worrying about guns, which is ironic since he went there with a gun. Gun control, the possibility that SCOTUS will destroy another segment of gun control by passing nationwide constitutional carry. Has this not been the most successful legacy media memory hole that you can actually conceive of? In just 2 short days, virtually nobody is talking about the fact that a sitting justice of the Supreme Court, right as a number of high-profile cases happened to be in open negotiation, was almost assassinated. And meanwhile, nobody's talking about the fact that Pelosi and the Democrats are refusing additional security to make sure that that doesn't happen. If this were Kagan or Ketanji, somebody like that, if a right-winger Proud Boy had showed up at Ketanji's house, I guarantee that it wouldn't have even been 24 hours before the Democrats passed additional security clearance for the remaining justices. That's a guarantee. The legacy media would talk about it 24/7. They'd be saying, look, this is evidence of the problem of guns. This is evidence of right-wing crime and bigotry and all of the bad things in the world. Instead, you don't have really any coverage at the moment at all. There's nothing on CNN, MSNBC, NBC. I check them some days. There's nothing. Not even a slight mention. No mention of any update on the case, any additional motives, potential mental illness connections. That's not mentioned. I don't even know what kind of gun the dude had. Probably a handgun. I don't even know because the legacy media is not reporting on it. There's nothing. There are no updates. No journalists are going there to talk to the police and say, hey, how about an update? How about a press conference on what happened at Kavanaugh's house a couple days ago? Absolutely nothing. Let's see. Sebastian Monroe just messaged you on Twitter. PolitiFact claims that Trump didn't request military aid or that Pelosi denied it. I sent you that letter from Muriel. Yeah, military aid had been requested days before, actually. He didn't request it day of, but it had indeed been requested for January 6th, and it didn't happen. And Pelosi was part of that. So fact check. The fact checkers are mostly false, as usual. Viridian G, where do you shop for your Hawaiian shirts? Here, the only place you can get it is there are some Dutch sites. I don't know because I don't read Dutch perfectly. I can work my way through it, but as far as doing the e-commerce thing, I let Liz handle that and say, hey, I need another Hawaiian shirt because I'm bored with the patterns that I currently have. The others, eBay. eBay is the best place to get them vintage, but a lot of eBay vendors don't ship here. One of the disadvantages of being in a small European nation. Sparky. Russia should go ahead and take all of Ukraine, or else the remainder will be the next Kosovo, a field for NATO exercises and corruption laundry. Well, I mean, it's going to be corrupt anyway. It was corrupt under Putin's thumb anyway before the counter-revolution that occurred there years ago anyway. So that's not going to save them. Believe it or not, going from Western rule to Eastern Bloc rule does not magically solve your problems. If anything, it makes some things worse. Mr. Sandvich, can't wait for LGBT Lord of the Rings after the train wreck of the Halo TV series where they read none of the books or games. Yeah. Can't wait for a Lord of the Rings shitty CGI version. I don't care about the wokeness. Some cases, there's malleability of the races that are in Tolkien's lore. What I do care about is when they put the trailer out, and I pointed this out at the time, you'll remember last month, I think it was, the CGI somehow looks absolutely primitive. It looks terrible. It's like looking at a PS3 game or something like that. It's horrendous. If you're going to rely heavily on CGI, which you're going to do if you're not doing a lot of classical effects, and they don't do that on the on-demand style shows. They should, but they don't. They're not going to go Peter Jackson in the 2000s mode. If you're going to rely on CGI, you better make sure that it's serviceable. Make sure that it's good. Not that it sucks ass. Let's see. Merrick Grimaldus, did you see full mobilization of Russia due to delays in the military gains? No, I didn't, actually. I'll have to look into that. Kuragul Peterson, sending $50. Thank you very much. I understand that renewable energy doesn't have the ability to keep up with all the energy required, but I was thinking of doing solar on my own home. Would it be a good idea to make it so new homes built are required to have solar? Bad idea? Thoughts? I don't believe in requiring such a fixture. I do believe in subsidizing it, but only for home solar. Look, the government's going to throw money at green energy anyway. Let's decentralize it, make it individual and community as opposed to taking up additional land, which may have some endangered species on it, or at least could grow a forest or crops or something, Instead of turning every bit of fallow land into nothing but a wasteland of Chinese solar panels, just pay people to mount it on their homes. Pay them a subsidy. In some states, they already had subsidies like that. A lot of them ended them. And then all of a sudden, people weren't putting up as much solar. I wonder why. Could it be the cost? Of course, right now, nobody's investing in things like that. Kuragul Peterson, love your super chats, by the way. Keep it up. I will always keep it up. I love knowing that there are like, no, at the moment, how many people are watching? About almost 2,100 people. And there are people who don't like me. And some of them hate lurk on all of my content. And they have to see me winning over and over again. And it gives me another reason to live. Renegade Shuriken, did you see Flamenco wanting a happy birthday from Godwinson and PPP after they couldn't prove their allegations towards him in an homage to you? Yes, I did see that, although I only pay sporadic interest to the e-drama dumpster fire side of things. It is kind of interesting, but I don't have any further thoughts in that particular case because I'm not going to go deep enough into it to know what the hell's going on. I just know that Flamenco, apparently there was some German Steam group he was on, and it had questionable material there, and people extrapolated that to mean he was a pedophile or something. And then he showed up on Warski's show, the Kino Casino, I think it's called. And they were grilling him, and it fell flat. It was a shit show. I do know enough to know that it was a shit show that really fell apart throughout the entirety. So I don't know anything about the personal side of that case, or nor do I care because I don't do e-drama. But yeah, I mean, it's amusing once in a while. Meximan and Cheese, I say we stop trying to shame Biden into working for us and do what has gotten his action before. Let's crowdfund a bribe. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you could do that. Biden will do anything if you pay him enough, especially now that he's completely demented. Lapse of apathy. People don't understand that most of these environmental issues have to do with public land. If more land was private, people would have the incentive to take care of the land. Yes, indeed. Make land cheaper so that more people have more land. Get it away from like the Bill Gates and the Vanguards and Blackwater groups. And make sure that people can have their acre. They can have their garden and so forth. And do away with the housing authorities because they're useless. Sparky, pro tip, don't be a pawn of the establishment. It's a good tip. My channel, G115. Hey, Sticks, congrats on the little one. My wife and I are having our first in early July. Keep up the great work. Definitely make sure to prepare with extra stacks of diapers. Okay, we got another news story here. So we covered Kavanaugh. Now we'll talk a little bit about Liz Cheney worship cult. There was an MSNBC article, link in the description, archived, of course, where they're saying, well, we need to return the GOP to what it was like under people like Liz Cheney. And I was thinking to myself, yeah, the MSNBC, do you think that they want a strong Republican Party that's capable of winning? Or do you think that they want a weak one where if they win it all, they bow their head and they don't do too much? So basically, the Cheneys and the Bushes and stuff are the party in the Republican sense, as the heads of the Republican Party of yesteryear, the 2000s into the middle of the 2010s. They were the party of being given a mandate and not doing anything. They were the party of not taking it too far. Well, we're not really gung-ho for more gun control right now, but the gun control that exists is fine. We're not really interested in raising taxes, but no, we're not really going to lower them. We're just going to give a stimulus to people that they'll squander on shit like Bush did. We're just going to marginally lower the tax rate for the super wealthy. Fuck the middle class, says George W. and Herbert Walker and all the others. The last time that you had a quasi-conservative movement that had balls, before Trump, I mean, the last time prior to that was first-term Reagan. And he, too, scared the shit out of the left wing, which is why Clinton ended up running. Reagan did a good enough job to get reelected, even though his second term was much more spotty. Herbert Walker gets in there on the carpetbag platform, and they were terrified Herbert Walker could have easily won. And it wasn't Ross Perot that caused that not to happen. And who gives a shit if it was? Clinton got in there by basically stealing Reagan's idea and saying, well, I'm basically going to be Ronald Reagan plus more welfare and I'm younger. That was what he did. Initially, it might not have worked, but then things happened with Herbert Walker. The rest was history. So there's a Liz Cheney worship cult, but it's not among Republicans, which is the party of the Cheneys, oddly enough. It's among Democrats. They're hoping that the neocons come back in vogue to weaken the GOP so that they can be beaten. Or at the very least, if they do end up accidentally winning, it won't make any difference because they'll be proposing the same basic plans the Democrats have. Yeah, 3 charming Billies. Styx doesn't run drugs, he snorts them. Never did get a chance to use cocaine. I never had any opportunity to when I was younger, back when I was doing the psychotropic shuffle, when I was a psychonaut. I had plenty of psychedelics, smoked weed, of course. Ended up having to drop that lifestyle because I overdosed on a drug that was legal at the time. It was spice. Well, it was a spice reagent anyway, as a JWHO18. Overdosed on that. Spent a couple days in the hospital and said, well, I guess I'm not doing that again. I learned my lesson. The Grizzly. Is Tim Pool right that the left-wing states just secede with a second Trump term if he wins 24? No, they're not going to secede. I doubt that they would, but all I ever hear from him is some form of civil war going on without clarifying his statements. There's no fucking civil war. There's no civil war to be had. The silent majority doesn't want any form of balkanization or national divorce crap. What they want is reform. There are some things on which the vast majority of the public agrees upon. Like, hey, maybe we shouldn't be at near 10-point inflation. Hey, maybe we should stop encouraging nuclear war over in Ukraine. These are not partisan issues. What we need is unity. Biden has done everything but. And then, by the way, we have one last news item I wanted to cover. Please don't send any more super chats cross-platform, unless you're already writing one now. There are a couple on Rumble that I'll get to in a moment. Because, of course, I wanted to keep this one a little bit more short. They did live streams for the last 3 days, so it's a little bit much. I'm not going to be doing like daily live streams. That's too much for me and probably too much for all of you. But I would like to do maybe 3 a week for the foreseeable future. Again, when the Roe decision comes through, definite live stream. I don't care if it's 2 a.m. when I have to do it. When gun control, when the constitutional carry decision comes through, it's likely. And certainly for the midterms, there will be big news not too far in the future with regards to the trajectory of the midterm show. Plenty of people have asked for this particular advent. It's going to be great. Sparky again, a large middle class is key to economic stability. Yes, indeed. We'll go through these two on Rumble really quick. Rel 21,000. I haven't heard about the FOIA info on the jab lately. Is that old news now? They're not going to get reported on by the legacy media, so probably we'll never know when it happens. It'll require actual journalists to dig into whether it happened or not. And people have other things they have to look into as well. It's a little bit daunting when you think about it. Bro, what? Hey, Styx, why do you think so many ancient groups had the Ouroboros even if they never interacted? Probably spelled that wrong, but whatever. Lol. No, you spelled it correctly, actually. Because it's sort of a universal symbol. It's also something that can be observed sporadically in certain species of lizard and snake. So any of those cultures, they're going to put it on their petroglyphs, their monuments and shit like that. It's a universal symbol. It sort of ties in with occult memetics. I pointed this out actually years ago with regards to Pepe. The reason why Pepe, the frog meme, took off is because it exhibited effectively irreducible complexity. You could make it something other than a frog. You could make it a lizard, or you could make it a fish or something. The basic concept of evoking the emotion of smugness was encapsulated in an image that could not get any more simplistic. It didn't even need any text. Everyone knew what it meant. You could then take that irreducibly non-complex image and extrapolate off of it infinitely. You could make a million different variants of it, never run out of material. The Ouroboros is technically the same. What is it? It's a circle. It's a circle with one little notch in it missing that happens to be stylized into a snake. There are a million different variants of it. It's the same thing. The swastika would be the same. The black sun being an offshoot of that, by the way. The star certainly exhibits this. Things that are simplistic and convey meaning and can be used in different ways. Zero Fan Mab on Twitch. Hey, Styx, do you ever use topical marijuana products for pain relief? Well, I don't have any pain to relieve because I take care of myself, get my exercise, reasonably good diet. Got Greek pasta tonight. I added much more vegetables and feta this time. Even added a little bit of the extra caraway in the oil, like the seasoning, the drizzle you put on it. Anyway, we'll talk about one last thing here. Now we've gotten to the super chats. Please don't send any more for now because I'll be cutting this off in a few minutes. Mexico has just cocksmacked Joe Biden. He's been humiliated by the Mexicans, led by Obrador. You'll remember this as the nation that under the same leadership got along famously with Donald Trump. Trump supposedly, he hates Mexicans. He hates these brown Hispanic people. Oh my God, he's going to alienate all of Latin America. Trump got along very, very well with the Mexican government. Probably in part because he actually is attempted to assist with getting rid of the cartels. After Fast and Furious, still a diplomatic issue to this day in some cases, I think the Mexican government soured on the Democratic Party. So what Obrador has done, he's decided to sit out the American summit that Biden is currently hosting in solidarity with the Nicaraguans and the Venezuelans predominantly. Now, I don't believe in siding with a commie regime like Venezuela, but I can sort of understand the sentiment. Biden has badmouthed numerous other nations, not just in Latin America. Look at what he said initially and people associated with him about Poland and Hungary several years ago. They've alienated a lot of nations around the world. The so-called unity internally within the U.S. that Biden promised, he's delivered the opposite. And supposedly Trump alienated all of our allies and he was burning all the toys and everyone would hate us. But now it's Biden that's getting stiffed. And by the way, not only did it not happen under Trump, it didn't really happen under Obama or Bush either. It only happened once under Obama. That was his last state visit, actually, the one to China. You remember when they snubbed him by not even sending an envoy to shake his hand when he got off the plane? And I suggested at the time and have for years, he should have gotten back on the plane and just took back off and pretended there was no meeting. It would have been the proper response diplomatically. Never happened to Bush. Mainly because people thought he was just a retarded chucklehead, but they never did something like this to him. Other than maybe the French, but that was justified. You know, the invasion of Iraq, not joining the grand imperialistic army of the Bush era. Never happened to Reagan. Plenty of protests, but nothing like this at the state level. It never happened to Herbert Walker, even though he deserved it. No, Biden. He's the only one that this has happened to, especially in the first couple of years of your first term. You can't even get a nation that you pander to, the Mexican government, that you pander to openly, and you pretend to love the brown people and all of this other Biden id-pol horseshit. You can't even get him to show up for your fucking summit under the premise that you're hardlining the Venezuelans. Bullshit, dude. And that's just an excuse. Obrador just doesn't want to shake hands with the motherfucker. You know why we know this? Trump was the one that hardlined these countries. He took up the hard line against places like Venezuela. The Mexicans didn't say anything. Government sucked him off. Loved him. He goes down there. He gets a standing ovation. Mexican council comes up to the U.S. Standing ovation. Everyone's fine. Diplomacy worked fine. So this has nothing to do with, anything like that, hardlining the Venezuelans. Biden's not going to hardline them. Bernie Sanders wouldn't let him. Sanders is older than Biden. At least he doesn't need a bran muffin in order to poop his adult undergarments. Oscar Gonzalez brings up a good point on YouTube. Water chestnut sticks, tasty? Yes, in fact, I've got some on order right now. They may be delivered today. Unfortunately, I think I'll have to wait till next week. And I need a good stir fry. Pen the Mighty, if there was a true civil war in the U.S., what forces or factions would be in play? Any idea on potential proxy OP4 as well? There won't be a civil war in the U.S. People are basically just mouthing off when they say that there will be one. What we've got instead is an ideological war. It's really more along the lines of what we had in the 60s or the 70s than anything else. There is an element of violence, but it's largely one-sided. It's a bunch of leftoids burning Wendy's down. Every time they do that, people that are on the fence go to the other side and buy another gun, just so that these people are aware how stupid they are. Kurgel Peterson, have you kept up with the SEC and Ripple case? Thoughts? Also thoughts on XRP. Seems to me Ripple has good traction outside the U.S. with their contracts in the banking world. I haven't kept up with that, although there's an SEC case involving Odyssey, involving Library, rather, the parent company or parent service. That one, I think one of the people attempting to prosecute them just quit a couple of weeks ago. So there may be good news in the future. We're hoping for it. Anyway, we're going to go off now. I know I've been going off for the better part of an hour anyway, but you know what I mean. So I wanted to ridicule some people that deserved it, have good fun, and it's good for them to get a little bit of comeuppance. I'm sure that they'll find it amusing more than anything else. That's kind of the point. It's bants. We had to talk about Kavanaugh because nobody in the legacy media is doing so. You probably wouldn't even know that someone tried to assassinate a sitting Supreme Court justice if you weren't paying attention to a bunch of fucking YouTubers. So that's how bad the so-called media has become. And then we've got Liz Cheney and, of course, Biden getting absolutely hammered over the Mexican thing. What a backstab. What a showing up of demented Joe Biden. The Mexican president won't even show up for the most major America's summit simply in a protest over an issue he really doesn't have anything to protest about because he never gave a shit before. I think it's clear he just doesn't want to be in the same room as Joe Biden. Can't blame him. I think Joe Biden's wife suffers from that as well. That's about all. Peace out.